I'd like to call to order the board meeting of Vallecitos Water District for March 7th. And Mr. Halbert, would you mind doing the pledge?
I would love to. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Roll call, Diane?
Here. Present.
Here.
Here. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. I don't call the hospitals. What has happened? Where is our boy?
Our gadfly's
Any other public speaking? Heavenly days. Let's see, consent calendar items.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. Geez, going so fast. Action items. 2.1, approval of general counsel services agreement.
All right, I'll take that item. So as the board is aware, the district receives its legal services, legal representation via professional services agreement, and currently are provided by Scott Jackson Law. The board's policy states that professional service agreements with a value of over $100,000 per year should be evaluated regularly, no longer than 5 years. And Scott Jackson Law has been the district's general counsel for well over 5 years. So back on September 29th, staff issued an RFP to firms interested in providing general counsel services for the district. The district interviewed 4 firms and selected Best and Krieger to provide general counsel services. I have been in contact with Mr. Gilpin and have negotiated an agreement, and that's what's in the board package tonight. But in general, I'll try to summarize it. The agreement does specify that BB&K will act as the general counsel for the district. In addition to attending our regular meetings that a legal representative is required, they'll also provide all legal advice that we need. They'll be compensated for their services on a time and materials basis, and the rates are specified in the agreement itself. The agreement does have a CPI cost inflator, which would be applied every January 1st of each agreement year. The agreement term is for 3 years, but does allow us to extend it for 2 one-year terms, so not to exceed 5-year period. And of course, there's always early termination clauses for both parties' sake. BB&K's designated general counsel is Mr. Gilpin. If you can raise your hand, Jim. He's in attendance with us tonight if the board has any questions. Mr. Nicholas Norvell will be the assistant general counsel should Mr. Gilpin not be available. And staff's recommendation is that the board authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with Best and Krieger to provide general counsel services. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
I have a question. How many water districts will BB&K now be serving in the San Diego?
I'm going to look to our prospective general counsel.
You're going to challenge me on the number. I think it's at least over 8. It's nearly every water district in the county we represent, in addition to others statewide. So,
And how about cities?
well, we serve as city attorney for a number of cities throughout California. In San Diego County, we only serve as city attorney for the city of Santee.
Thank you, sir. Move to approve.
I'll second it, but
Question.
first off, welcome. You don't have to come up. We went through a quite extensive RFP process, and we met with, of course, BB&K and a number of other firms as we went through it. So I didn't want to give the impression that this was a decision that we just made right here in 30 seconds. That I wanted at least anybody who might be watching that on TV to know that this was many months in the making, and we went through a full process and did all of our due diligence and came up with what I believe is a great firm to start partnering with, and I look forward to working with you guys. So thanks.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Welcome aboard.
Thank you,
Item
Jim.
number 2.2, investment advisory firm selection.
All right, I'll take that one as well. So historically, staff in the district's finance department have managed the district's investment portfolio, but based on the size of our portfolio, the importance of the returns that come from those investments, and some of our staffing situation that we have, I believe it's in our best interest at this time to retain a professional investment advisory firm. So back on January 18th of this year, we issued an RFP for investment advisory services. We received 6 proposals, and we evaluated them according to certain criteria that we had established. For example, the firm's experience, the personnel that they will assign to represent Vallecitos, their responsiveness to the RFP, and the fee that they would be charging. After that evaluation, it was unanimous, the staff selection, and we recommend that the district retain the firm of Chandler Asset Management to manage the district's investments. They have a wealth of experience with Southern California Water District clients, and they come with really good references. We did check the references on this and couldn't have been happier with those reference checks. They also use a software that will better integrate with our software, so it'll ease things on the back end. Chandler's estimated annual fees are just under $50,000, $49,900, and that's based on the size of the portfolio, so it could vary slightly. But we believe the extra earnings that we'll get utilizing their services will more than offset the cost of those fees. So our recommendation is that the board authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with Chandler Asset Management. And we do have Mia Brown and Kara Rayner Sanchez here from Chandler, should the board have any questions. And with that,
Very good. Yes, sir.
Same question. How many water agencies do you now represent in San Diego County?
Well, good evening, directors and staff. My name is Mia Corral Brown. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. We work with San Diego County Water Authority, which is the largest water authority here in San Diego County. But I've provided a list for myself just for reference. Just one moment. So in San Diego County, we actually don't work with any other water districts, but we manage portfolios for Rancho California Water, City of San Marcos, Western Municipal Water, and work with $1.6 billion in assets of water monies throughout Orange County and Riverside counties.
Thank you. How long have you been with the city of San Marcos?
We've been with the City of San Marcos for about 8 years. We work very closely with Laura Rocha and her staff.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
With
Any
that,
other questions?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second, any debate? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Easy peasy.
Thank you. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
We look forward to the 8% return.
Yeah.
Wes told us about it. That's why we were excited.
All righty, let's see, item 2.3, adoption proposed 2018 investment policy.
so Wes Owens is actually going to take this item, but as he walks up here, we have asked the Chandler representatives to stick around should the board have any questions, because they are the firm that will be implementing and investing per the policy that the board adopts tonight.
Wes?
And Wes, maybe you can introduce both of them. I know Mia, because she spoke, and I forget the other lady's name.
This is Kara. I actually don't know Kara's last name, but
Kara?
maybe she can introduce
It's
herself.
Rayner Sanchez. The last name is Rayner Sanchez.
And I do
Hyphenate.
client service, working very closely with Mia Corral. So we assist on a lot of the water districts that we work with, and then I work with a lot of the cities that we manage in San Diego.
I missed your first name.
Oh, Kara.
Kara.
Yes.
Kara, okay.
Kara, very good, Kara.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. 8%. You can do it, Wes.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
I got faith in you.
Phew.
I would enjoy that.
I got faith in you.
Okay. Good evening, President Hernandez, members of the board. I'm going to be giving a presentation on the proposed 2018 investment policy tonight. First, I'm going to go over some background, then I'll talk about 2 major changes to the proposed investment policy, which are the delegation of authority and the permissible investments. Then I'll talk about the advisor review, and finally, staff's recommendation. So just a little background, the district submits an investment policy to the board for approval on an annual basis, and this is done because it's recommended by the government code, and it's also GFOA and the Treasurers Association best practices. The last time the investment policy was approved by the board was in November of 2017, so we're due for an update. The proposed investment policy has been modified in two major ways. The first is to accommodate the use of an investment advisor. The second is to allow more permissible investments in accordance with the government code. The proposed investment policy was presented to the Finance Committee on January 30th, 2018, and no changes were recommended. So the first major change to the proposed investment policy is the delegation of authority. So in order to allow for an investment advisor, we had to revise some of the wording in the policy and the delegation of authority section. So in section 1 of the current policy, it actually says the authority to invest lies with the treasurer, and he may assign that to the finance manager. The proposed investment policy in section 2 now reads, the district may engage the services of one or more external advisors to manage the district's investment portfolio. The second major change are the permissible investments. This table shows the current policy and the permissible investments, the proposed policy, and the government code. The highlighted line items are actually investments that are not allowed in the current policy but will be under the proposed investment policy, and you can see they're allowed in the government code as well. Allowing these will just give the advisors in the district more flexibility to achieve more return while maintaining safety and liquidity. It's important to note that all these investments will have up to a maximum of a 5-year maturity and must have a minimum credit rating of A. So one of the things we asked for in our RFP was that the advisors review our investment policy. And to quote Chandler Asset Management, they said, we've reviewed the district's proposed investment policy and believe that we can add significant value to the investment program with this policy. So together with a new policy, we can be successful. And with that, staff recommends that we adopt the proposed investment policy for 2018.
You have them initial that last slide and then put it in the file?
I didn't see Bitcoin on the list. What the hey?
I don't know if we invest in that.
Okay.
I'll look into that.
No cryptocurrencies whatsoever.
I've got one question. With, as with anything, with a higher interest rate, you generally sustain a higher degree of potential loss. Do our investment people, I know your answer, do our investment people think the same thing, is really not changing that much? Are risk factors not changing that much with the changes we're making to our policy?
Most of the investments we're allowed to invest in have short maturity, and they also have high credit ratings. So we're really not taking on much additional risk with the new investment policy. Government code doesn't allow for us to take on too much risk.
Right.
So I don't think we'll see too much of that.
Any other questions? I have a question. This was a chicken and egg discussion. Do we change the policy, then hire the firm? Do we hire the firm and then change? What I would like to personally see after they're involved in a while
Absolutely.
is if there are items that you see, now we've taken a little longer look at it, we'd like you to get into Bitcoin here and or anything. I'm truly, it just amazes me. I don't think we're making 3% on anything. Like 1.5, 1.3, you can pitch pennies against the wall and make that, and it's embarrassing in my opinion. And I understand your limitations, but if you come up with anything creative, do not hesitate to bring it back, because some of us on the board, at least myself, would be interested in taking a portion and being a little more aggressive.
Ponzi schemes.
Yeah, marijuana. You got 13 acres up in the valley we could get going. Yes, sir.
It's certainly open to hearing any recommendations that you guys might have as you get into the partnership and learn a little bit more about us. But I do know from being on the finance committee with Director Martin and having kind of dove into this a little deeper than we are tonight, there's a lot of limitations, like you said, Director Hernandez, and I think a lot of those safeguards are in place so that there's not a lot of risk, but there could still be an opportunity to get a little bit better return with our assets. So certainly we're all for that. That's our money worked for our ratepayers. So.
Director Martin.
I have one last burning question. On your employee ID, does it show you holding a half-a-gallon of water bottle?
It does, I carry that everywhere.
Yeah.
It's on there.
Wow, it's like your pet spot.
Do you have Jostle? You can go on there, you'll see me with my water bottle.
No, I don't have whatever that is.
It's interesting, coupled with what Director Sinella was saying, at one of our last conferences, someone suggested for infrastructure, for not ours, but public infrastructure, perhaps there's a way of taking some of our reserves and using that as a finance tool and getting a better interest rate on that. I don't know if they knew what they were talking about. I have no idea what they were talking about, but those kind of creative opportunities, yeah, I don't know if they're out there, but I would be happy to hear of any of that.
Definitely, we will be reporting back our thoughts and ideas to you on a quarterly basis. We're available by phone. And the wonderful thing is that we're located in North San Diego here.
Wow.
And so we look to have a collaborative relationship.
Thank you, thank you. Yes,
Yeah, does staff plan on having say a quarterly review with Chandler here?
Yeah, part of the agreement, I believe, it actually specifies that they're supposed to come 4 times a year. I don't know that it necessarily says at the board level. It may be a combination of finance committee and the board level. If the board wants all those to be here, we can certainly do that.
I know at my time at Rancho Water, we used Chandler, we're very happy, and Kate Chandler used to come and give us a report
Okay.
quarterly. That was very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a very impressive, comprehensive quarterly investment report. It was very impressive.
yes, sir.
And just to put it on the record at the full board meeting, we did also discuss with staff, and they were agreeable at the finance meeting that there'd be some sort of, it doesn't necessarily have to be Chandler, but staff would prepare a report on a quarterly basis that would kind of compare and contrast how the trends were last year versus now with this new arrangement. So that should be forthcoming as well.
Very good. With that, any other questions? I'd move, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Oh, this is, sorry.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes.
Yes. Very good. Item 2.4, California Special District Association Board of Directors, call for nomination.
All right, so Vallecitos is a member of the California Special Districts Association. They're broken down into 6 geographical areas. They call them networks. We're part of the Southern Network, and each network has 3 seats available, and they become open on a rotating basis. And pretty soon, seat A within the Southern Network will be become available due to just an expiring term. The seat is currently filled by Miss Jo McKenzie. She's with the Vista Irrigation District. Ms. McKenzie, according to the information we got from CSDA, will be running for re-election, just so that the board members are aware. But right now, CSDA is calling for nominations from individuals interested in being considered for placement in seat A of the Southern Network for the 2019-2021 term. The deadline to submit nominations is April 18th, and a resolution and candidate information sheet must accompany the nomination form. And we're just here looking to see if any of the board members are interested in throwing their hats in the ring.
If no one's interested, I'd like us to send an affirmative letter for Joe McKenzie.
A letter of support? Okay.
I'd second that.
Very good. Yes, by all means, she's done a wonderful job.
All right.
Note and file that. Very good. That's
You did a wonderful job. You're almost done.
chop, chop. Now we go on to reports. General Manager's report. Thank you very much.
All right. Would you like me to keep it brief? or-
No, you
Okay.
take as much time as you want.
So I've got 3 items, and the first one I think is kind of important. So yesterday, the State Water Resources Control Board, they actually adopted water quality requirements that would facilitate indirect potable reuse. So what they did is they developed these standards that establishes the quality of recycled water and the mix ratios of recycled water to other surface water quantities, and what they call the residence time. How long would that recycled water need to be in the surface body of water? So it's really a big step to move agencies forward if they wanted to look into an indirect potable reuse project. There was a really rigorous process. They had a lot of peer review, they had a lot of community involvement, a lot of technical work that went into this. And those were all adopted. It took about a two-year period, which was good. Started back in 2014 They had an expert panel that actually kicked this thing off, and the expert panel believes that the standards that are being proposed will adequately protect public health. So that's great news overall for California. When you look at our local situation, I'm not sure how much it'll actually benefit Vallecitos Water District. It'll really benefit agencies that have large bodies of surface water. So if you have a large lake, then you may be able to mix certain quantities of recycled water with the water in the lake, and after you let it reside there for periods of time, you can draw that water out, treat it, and then inject it into your drinking water system. I don't believe our surface water bodies are large enough to really help us, but we do produce recycled water that we sell, so it may help our local member agencies that purchase that water, such as Livenhain or Carlsbad, that are better suited to produce indirect potable reuse. But, so that kind of continues the progression. Back in 2014, the state board set the requirements for using recycled water to recharge groundwater basins. Just yesterday, they approved the regulations for indirect potable reuse, and now the next thing on their plate is to establish the standards for what they call direct potable reuse, where you wouldn't have to add it to a surface body. And those standards, it'll be a while, those are expected in 2023. So we're still 5 years away from those standards. But when those standards are in place, that'll really help agencies crunch the numbers to see if the cost of the water is cost effective compared to the other supplies of water. So that was a big step that the State Water Resources Control Board took. Second item, an update, the County Water Authority and Metropolitan have a series of lawsuits. One of the ones that's still pending is the Water Authority has requested that Metropolitan release their rate model. Metropolitan refused to release their rate model, so it went to a lawsuit under the Public Records Act. And on just this past Monday, the San Francisco Superior Court, the judge did not issue a ruling. They extended the deadline until March 16th. They want some additional time to review additional evidentiary objections that came up at the meeting on Monday. So hopefully on March 16th, we'll have a verdict from the judge as to whether Metropolitan needs to release their rate model or not. And if they do, then it'll take some time from the Water Authority to really look through that rate model. And the reason the Water Authority wants the rate model is they want to ensure that the cost being passed along to County Water Authority member agencies is appropriate, and that we're paying our fair share and no more than our fair share. So I'll keep the board updated when that March 16th date rolls around, and hopefully the judge will make a decision. And the last update I had was just on snowpack. I think at our last meeting I talked a little bit about the snowpack and how poor it was. It was a really bad beginning to the year. Well, the last week or so, we've really had some good snowfalls. They've gotten between 5 and 8 feet of snow up in the Sierras, so that's really good. The number I gave you last time is that we were about 22% of normal levels. Now we're up close to 40%. So depending on the source, you hear 37 to 39% of normal. Still well below normal, but almost twice as much as it was just the previous, when they previously measured it. So that's good. It's a good indicator, but with that, our current water supply wholesaler, the Water Authority, they're very confident that there will be adequate supplies for this coming year with no water supply restrictions. But as always, we encourage our customers to use water wisely and conserve wherever possible, because every gallon we save this year is a gallon that we can use next year. So with that, those are the only updates that I have.
Yes.
Yeah, back to Metropolitan, have you heard anything back on the local projects application?
I have not. I wasn't able to attend the meeting on Wednesday, the local meeting. James, I don't know if you heard anything about any local supply projects.
No information at this time.
The retroactive application?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're
Desal.
talking about the desal.
Yeah.
I apologize. We're still working with the County Water Authority to get our application in alignment with the Water Authority's application, because they also applied for their share of the desal water.
Right.
They beat us to the punch because they were sitting on our application. They submitted theirs for the entire output of the plant. So when we submit an application between us and Carlsbad for 6,000 acre feet, the Metropolitan is going to say, wait a minute, the Water Authority already submitted for the full output.
Double count.
You can't double count it.
Right.
So we're trying to work with the Water Authority to reconcile those before the applications become official. So sorry I misunderstood you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other guests?
Yeah, going back to the first thing, about indirect potable. It's always been my fear that someone's gonna mess this up big time. And when the city of San Diego, Pure Water, first talked about indirect potable, they were pumping, their water back up to, Lake, Winnehaha, the big lake. We just raised-
San Vicente. San Vicente.
Yeah, San Vicente.
Yeah.
And that was all, fine, it was gonna go in at one end, come out the other end. Well, since then, they realized that Lake Miramar, a 20th the size, is much closer. But the question is, it's not gonna be there as long as. I always have a problem when they come up with acceptable levels, because it's like the notices you see on the beach. After they've closed the beach because of runoff, it now has acceptable levels of bacteria in it.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing in general public. I would tell our investment people over there, start investing in bottled water, because it's gonna go, instead of 2 aisles at the grocery store, it's gonna go to 4 aisles. Everybody's gonna be buying bottled water when that kicks in. And I don't know why they keep using those terms, acceptable levels, because it's acceptable to who?
Yeah, well, obviously, the feds and the state establishes standards that the water quality has to meet, and you can't say it's 100% pure, because no water is 100% pure, even bottled water mostly isn't. So,
But the bottled water says it's okay.
yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's
Well, they have
no
different
standard.
standards. It's
Nothing
in-
we can do about it, but I'm just saying, bottled water is gonna be the rage. Sparklets is loving us.
Yeah.
That's why we should get into the bottled water business.
We should.
I've told the manager that many times. All right. Nothing further, sir?
That's all I had.
Very good. Then we are moving on to, legal counsel? I don't think we have anything.
Nothing's here.
Moving on. Water Authority?
Nobody's here.
No one's here. Moving on. Encina? We have not had a capital improvement committee yet. Next week we will have. Policy Finance?
Yeah, the same with the Encina Policy and Finance Committee will meet next week on March 13th.
Very good. Standing committees.
We did have a finance committee meeting, the notes are in the packet, but I would like to say, this is my 3rd year on this committee, and absolutely this year, we've had more information, more openness from staff. We get everything we ask for, and they're doing a great job. So we really appreciate staff and the information it's given us, which has made these board meetings much faster, because I'm not there slowing down. So, and there weren't that many Martinisms coming out anymore. So, at the request of the general manager. So thank you very much, appreciate it.
And Engineering Committee will be having a meeting in April to discuss and hear what's going on with the locker room, and we'll have a report.
We gonna have hoops in it now?
No. Taking the lockers and turn them into baskets. Directors' reports, meetings, and conferences. Mr. Director Sinella,
I have not attended anything since our last meeting.
Today.
what about today?
Oh, yeah, the state of the city, sorry. Like 3 hours ago, you mean?
Take a picture.
Check
Yeah,
your
so,
picture.
Short-term memory.
I think with our general manager and at least most of us, we were all attended the State of the City address by Mayor Desmond that was hosted by Cal State San Marcos and the Chamber of Commerce. And it was, just an update on how things are going in the city. It seems like everything's going very well, and it was Mayor Desmond's last address before he's termed out of office, so he won't be mayor next year. And it looks like from every indication, it looks like he's leaving the city in a good shape. So,
Director Martin?
The last board meeting was the last event that I had.
And the meeting, oh, you weren't there today. Very good. I attended the same meeting, same thing, great event, great opportunity to connect with other local government officials and individuals of prominence. I already have 2 commitments on the dock and the raft when I meet with the developers. So we'll have that, time is coming before Memorial Day. Let's see, sir.
Oh, yeah, okay, I attended the State of the City as well today. I also last week attended the joint CASA Aqua Washington DC Legislative Conference. I've got a tremendous long list, but I'll do the short version because I know we're all anxious to get out of here. So. But anyway, for the CASA portion, we met with congressional staffers for Congressman Issa and Congressman Hunter to emphasize actually both CASA's and Aqua's agenda and talking points. I won't go through all of those, but fairly productive meetings, although the congressional staffers look like they're far worried about more pressing things. They're pretty much preaching to the choir when we come to talk to them about infrastructure needs, and, additional funding, those kind of things. So they're both congressmen's offices, or staff are very supportive of those kind of requests. Some notable speakers, Edward Isaac DeVere is a reporter for Politico. There was, on both agendas for CASA and Aqua, there were many political pundits and prognosticators, and depending on whether there's an R or a D after their names, they're either optimists or pessimists. So, but the Political reporter is convinced nothing will get done in the next 8 months due to the midterm elections. Listening to some of the Republican congressmen from California, they're very optimistic. Interesting note from Adam Krantz. He's a CEO of NACWA, which is the National Association of Clean Water Agencies. He says one of the big issues surfacing nationally is consolidations and privatization of water and wastewater utilities. He cited Flint, Michigan, and other recent examples of the public's interest in maybe going in a different direction. So I found that pretty interesting. There was a lot of talk about the Trump administration's infrastructure proposal, and kind of the big joke back there is all they need to do is mention infrastructure, and 3 more disasters strike the administration, and it gets shelved for another 6 months. So they've tried twice now, and they haven't been able to get much attention on infrastructure. They came, a couple weeks ago, came out with a kind of a 50-page outline of kind of a skeleton outline of what they're thinking from the administration. About $1 trillion in total, but the federal government only contributing about $200 billion of that. So, they're in their position paper pushing for local and private funding, and most of us don't see where public-private partnerships are really the answer. So that remains to be seen. And kind of the big takeaway is that there isn't any free money floating around. With this, it's just becoming more scarce with the ever-tightening budget discussions. So, as part of the effort for pushing the industry association's agenda, we pushed for keeping and strengthening the state revolving fund loans for both the Clean Water Act and Safe Drinking Water Act. There's existing programs are working well, like WRDA, WIFIA, the WIN Act, those kind of things, where we all emphasize to keep those and strengthen those where possible, but there isn't any free money hiding around back there these days. And so, but it was an interesting conference.
Very good. All right. Yes, moving on to 4.1, the meetings. We finally see the North County Economic Summit, April 11th, and I believe we are attending that.
I am.
Yep,
Yeah, we're all good.
very good.
Yes.
Yes. I saw the young lady that always attends that meeting, Karen, to ask her, when are the meetings being held now? We're not getting any notice. At least I'm not getting notice. So we can talk to her.
What did she say?
I missed her. I couldn't catch her with the crowd. we'll work on that. Item 5.1, future comments, director comments and future agenda items. I have one. With regard to our new council, I would ask that we have on a monthly, I don't know that we need to do a presentation, but in our packet, a monthly detailed billing. I appreciate the new council coming on board. It's gonna take a little while to get up to speed, but one of my concerns was before, where, you know, we're driving a Cadillac now, and Cadillacs are more expensive than Chevys, so I wanna see and make sure that our ratepayers are getting the right amount of value for what we've done, so if I could see that in the report, we'll then have the documentation and know where we're going.
Okay. Yeah, if that's what the board wants, then we could look at ways to incorporate it in with the financial reports that we include in monthly.
Very good. All right, anything else?
Nothing.
Nothing else? Adjourned.